I'm going to start off with Mr. Royse, and Mr. Royse is one of the guys that was the early founder of the Royse City. He was the seventh man out of 14 children in his family, and he was the man that was instrumental in getting the city of Royse City developed. He was better known as Bird Royse back in those days. Burgess Griffin Royse was his name, but they called him Bird. But he bought several tracts of land around the Royse City area, and he told the guys that if the MK&T Railroad would, if they would put a train depot there, and they would name that area after him, Royse, then he would donate the property for that. And so they did that, and that's actually how the city of Royse City got its name, and that's how they began. And you can see the MK&T Railroad, and also how it goes all the way to Kansas City, Missouri, and also goes up to St. Louis, but it went right through Royse City and all the way down to Houston. This is a railroad track. The railroad track ran right through Royse City, and it's where the railroad track is in Royse City now. But right in between the railroad tracks, there was a train depot, and that stayed there for a long, long time. People would go to the train depot, and they would actually board the train. They would go on trips. They'd go from, it would go all the way to Kansas City and to Dallas. And there's a lot of traffic during that time, because also some of the goods that were produced around the Royse City and the Royse City area, they were developed, and they produced those things and took them up there, and they put them on the train docks there, and they would ship those out. Also, it was the main place where Royse City got their mail. The mail was delivered to the train depot, and then it was taken over to the post office from there. Some of the businesses and things that we had in Royse City back in those days were banks and livery stables, and livery stables were where they kept the horses and some of the work animals that they had around the area. They had hay and grain stores. They had several dry goods stores in the area. There was a jewelry store. There was a hotel. There was a cobbler, or a man that somebody that fixed your shoes and put new soles on your shoes and things like that in Royse City. Folks didn't just when they wanted to change the color of the shoes, they couldn't afford things like that, so they had to go to a cobbler and put new soles on them. There was a billiard hall or pool hall. This is the post office that is currently there. But the original post office, as it says, was opened in 1886, and that was about the time that the city of Royse City was developed. This post office was built in the 1970s, and there was another post office that was right down on Main Street, right down close to where they've got the Cookston Court right now. Another picture in the early 1900s, you see you don't see any presence of any kind of automobiles or cars or anything like that during these days. Everybody came to town with their wagons to bring their goods to towns. This is from where the current post office is on Royse City, facing back west from there. Some of these buildings are not there anymore. You can see the higher second-story buildings. This is a hotel over on the left, and this is a hotel over on the right. This was a grain store where it says Mercer's on here. You can just kind of take a look, and this is the way that life was in the early 1900s in Royse City. This is a picture from 1915, and when we look at this, if you'll notice a little bit over in the back, you'll see looks like some covered wagons or something like that, but those are actually cars. And we believe that this was a special occasion because there's also the Royse City Band, is right back in here. If you can see these guys that have their ties on, they have some hats on, but the Royse City Band was there. They were celebrating something on this day, and we're still trying to figure out exactly what it was. But if you go through Main Street of Royse City, you still see that building that's got the WOW on it. That's Woodman of the World, and it was kind of like a Rotary Club or something similar to that. And some of these, this is the Main Street of Royse City, it's still there, just like it is. Some of the architecture that was like the steeples and things like that that they had right above the buildings, some of those are not there anymore, but these are still the same buildings back in 1915 that were actually built before then. You notice a lot of these kids in here too, everybody wore a hat. Back in those days, everybody wore hats. You don't see very many people in here. I don't know if you see anybody in here without a hat. Anywhere from a straw hat to a derby hat, a type of a bowler's what they call it, about just a round top hat. But right down here in the front, there's a little boy here, and standing right in front and right by these boards, and he's got a Boy Scout hat on. This is the first Boy Scout troop in Texas, Boy Scout troop #1. Of course, you can see some young kids in there. Now, these old guys down here, they're not Boy Scouts, but they're the Boy Scout leaders. They're usually some of the guys that started it. And it's thought that maybe some of these guys, the real old fellows, or might be some guys that were possibly veterans of the Civil War. This is looking down Main Street, and you can still see some of the buildings, some of the architecture, some of the tops of the buildings back in those days. Cotton was the main crop around the Royse City area. Royse City and Fate. All of this was black land, rich, fertile land around Royse City and the Fate area. And what they produced out of the cotton, they used everything from the cotton, everything from the cotton burrs, that was the shell that protected the cotton, and then after that they would take the seed that was inside the cotton, and they would take it to a gin, and that seed was extracted from the cotton boll. Well, it was those cotton seeds that they sent over to these cotton oil plants, and they would take this cotton seed, and there's still today some of the foods that you eat and some of the things that they cook with are made from cottonseed oil. It's a large product. So there was nothing that went to waste back in those days. And still, even today, they try to produce everything they could. But cottonseed oil was used anywhere from, if you can see it, it's in your potato chips that you eat. It's in things like Crisco oil and things like that you cook with. But cottonseed oil and cotton oil companies, plants, these were very productive times back in those days in Royse City, and this is one of the things that they used. If you look on this one here, the streets in Royse City were dirt. They just there was, it was just black land soil. These are some of the streets. This is a present Center Street in Royse City. If you're down close to Main Street, you're looking back toward where the city park is. This is one of those. The homes, this house right here with the diamond-shaped window in it is still in Royse City. You can go down Center Street and still see that house. And this is about around 1900. The homes were really beautiful. I mean, we still have some of these homes around there too. Two-story homes. The folks that lived in these homes were sometimes prominent members of Royse City. This guy here, D.W. Terrell, he was a school board member, and Mr. Terrell, his family were the ones that the city of Terrell was named after. So some of the Terrell family lived in Royse City, and this is one of their houses. And you can see the beautiful artwork and the craftsmanship that they use around these porches and things like that. Another one of the just beautiful homes, large homes. Some of these houses had 3,000 to 4,000 square feet inside of them. Another one, still see some of these. To me, I think that these are beautiful. This house is still in Royse City, and this is the actually what it is now is the Zahner Benetton uh, Library, not the library, but pardon me, but it's on Arch Street, and it is where the uh, actually the jail used to be in Royse City, and the police department. And this picture was taken in the 1930s. Um, it was also the Masonic Lodge, and that's where the Masons met. And they were the ones that actually built this. Was the Masons in Royse City. Some of you may have seen this before. This is the jail. This is a jail that was built around Royse City, and they actually put people in this jail. This jail is up by the water tower. Now they've redone this, and you don't see all the stars and things on it now, but they leveled it, and if some guys got out of hand on Main Street in Royse City, if they were uh, maybe doing something they weren't supposed to be doing, then if they would arrest them on their horse and take the guy and put him in the jail, and he'd stay down there for a night or two. This First Christian Church, this church was replaced by the current First Christian Church that is up close to Main Street. And then the Royse City Methodist Church was built in 1896. So it celebrated over 100 years not too long ago. This was before they had Highway 66 going through there. So you'll see the Church of Royse City, and then right next door to it is a house. Well, now that house is replaced by the highway that goes through there. Baptist Church, Presbyterian Church, these churches are no longer there. This one, the basis for this church is still around. They've remodeled it so much that it does not it's not recognizable as this structure here. And this is my grandfather, W.E. Summers, 1935. My grandfather was born in Royse City in 1886. And so my family goes way back. The mules, as I said before, were vital to their survival. I mean, this is what they did. They farmed the land, so the mules and the horses and and all of those animals that they used to plow the land and plant the seed and harvest the crops were treated well. My granddaddy and my grandmother, they had 8 children, 4 boys and 4 girls. And every one of them, boys and girls, they worked the land as well. Fires in Royse City, it was horrible. But back in those days, they didn't really build the buildings up to some electrical codes and some of the things that they had. But this is you'll see several articles in some of these old newspapers. $100,000 blaze, which destroyed part of the town back in those days, would be like maybe a couple of $1 million worth of damage in today's money. Another 4 Royse City buildings were destroyed, $150,000 fire. And if you notice, there is a gap between the 2 buildings there on Main Street, which now they call it as Cookston's Court. But that gap was actually created because of this fire. And this fire here was destroyed the hotel and one of the other businesses, which was a seed store there on that corner. That fire in particular drew fire departments from all around the area, and they were afraid that at one time that this fire could consume all of Main Street. Luckily, they were able to put it out. There were a couple of injuries that happened on that. I was just a little boy when this happened, but I can remember standing on Main Street with my dad and being fearful that this would be that this was going to destroy our town. Of course, it is a member of the Main Street USA. That is an organization that is recognized all throughout the United States. That they come in and they take a look and see that you've maintained some of the structures that the town was built around, and so they have been recognized as one of those members of Main Street USA.